Spread the religion, spread the religion, spread the religion of the rhythm of life. Daddy started out and sent.
So I became a King singer 14 years ago. I was working in advertising in London. I'd been a choral scholar at university, but I hadn't ever thought that I'd become a professional singer. And so I'd been singing in London churches, kind of getting my fix that way. And all of a sudden I received an email from my former director of music from New College saying, this vacancy in the King Singers has come up. Would you be interested in going for it? I've been approached to give names to recommend. And I thought, what are you talking about? That's mad. Yeah, like, sure, but there's no way. So I said yes to the audition. I was then contacted by the King Singers team about months later. And that takes us through into early 2010. And then I had my two auditions in March and May 2010 and was offered the job on the day of my second audition, which was kind of amazing. And yeah, I mean, to use a hackneyed phrase, the rest is history. Like, I did not expect it to happen, but it was kind of an extraordinary pivot in my life from singing having been something I only ever wanted to be a hobby to being the thing that made me my living. That took me, for the first time all over the world. I'd been to Europe a lot with my family because a lot of my family are from across Europe. But I'd only been on a long-haul flight twice in my life. And now to think about how my experience of well-traveled has changed and how my experience of how I make my living has changed, it's wild. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying that the chance to become a King singer came out of nowhere to me, and I just said, yeah, why the hell wouldn't I audition? And that's it. Being a King singer has had an extraordinary impact on my life because it's basically been the story of my whole adult life, right? Which is a bit wild because I know that the kind of contours of my existence haven't been those of a normal professional. Like, my commute to work is taking the Heathrow Express, and then that takes me somewhere. So I think shaping me as a person, I've become, I hate to say this, but quite a global citizen. Like, I am pretty comfortable in a lot of places. I've performed in over 60 countries. I've been on every continent bar Antarctica. I am very comfortable taking long flights, having really difficult travel days, meeting lots of different kinds of people, eating lots of different kinds of foods. And I'm so grateful for that. I also think that one of the great benefits of being a King singer, not musically, is that you have to find a way of connecting with loads of people. You have to, as a performer from the stage, you have to, work out how to move each different kind of audience, in different countries, different sizes. And that's amazing because you realize how you can have an impact on people. And when you get to leverage that, not just while you're performing, that's amazing. But then, of course, there are all the people you meet, not just when you're performing from the stage, but the people who have helped make your concert happen, the people who you were introduced to at a reception, the people who are next to you on the plane. Like, all of that, I think, has given me a really, a wonderful ability to build relationships and to feel really connected. So I think that's what I would say as a person. Possibly also, the King Singers is a really interesting organization because we are the 6 partners who run it. We have an amazing team who help us have the career we have, management agents, as you know. But in terms of how we kind of operate, we are an equal partnership of 6 people. So there's a hugely collaborative spirit that runs through the veins of the 6 people who are in the group at any one time. And I don't know where else you would find that. It's like if you look at the different colors of organizations, that's like one theory of, or one piece of organizational theory. you have different structures of organizations which range from like red, which is basically the mafia, to teal, which is like completely flat. And I think we're the closest to like a teal organization that you can get, where everyone is sort of deferential to everyone else, and also everyone was responsible, for different things, and has authority over other people according to their skills and their responsibilities and stuff. And that's pretty amazing. So that's like the two levels, I'd say, maybe as a person. Musically, how has the King Singers changed me? I think I didn't think I would enjoy sharing the spotlight as much as I have. I really love performing, and I like to think that I'm a reasonably comfortable performer on stage. But I think one of the things which is really interesting about being in this group is that you are nothing without the 5 other people who are on stage with you. And so it's all about knowing when to stand forward and when to stand back. I've just finished watching a kind of making a K-pop band on Netflix. And it's really funny. You're not meant to stand out too much, but whenever you are given the spotlight in a K-pop group, then you are meant to enjoy it. And I think that actually it's really funny because the King Singers is kind of the same. Like, the group wants everyone to have their moment, but actually musically we are only really doing our job if we are putting the collective over the individual. So I think I've learned from that to be a really good listener for things like balance and blend. I've learned to be really, really meticulous when it comes to ensemble work, in terms of, like how do we shape every word, every diphthong? Like how do we color every dynamic? Like the kind of detail that we work with is wild, I think, for most people. And I also think that the breadth of repertoire we sing is huge. And I think that musically I'd never been in a group or an ensemble where we had tried to kind of engage with so much music in so many different styles. And I love the fact that a part of my kind of like musical growth in the King Singer has been just getting to know so much repertoire.
Come, gentle swings and still sways.
For me, I always wanted to leave on a high. So I wanted to leave while I still really enjoyed it. It's like a really good party. You know what I mean? It's like if you go to an amazing party, the worst you can do is be the last person there at 4 a.m. when everyone kind of wish you'd left a bit earlier and you're feeling really out of it and you've got a horrible journey home. Like leave when you're still gonna have amazing memories of it. So that was the first thing. I always wanted that to be the case. I then looked at this year of touring and I thought, oh my God, this year of touring is like the best party ever in terms of the global coverage, amazing performance venues, seeing lots of people that really matter to me over the, from my kind of like King Singers touring history. Like all of that was coalescing in one year. And also I'm half Austrian, half English. And as it happens, my last 2 shows this year are in Vienna and London. So I was like, what an amazing way to leave. So in terms of how the diary helped me make my decision, that it seemed pretty straightforward there. The group relies on continuous turnover, like slow continuous turnover, but like no one can stay forever. And without wanting to sound arrogant, I think I'm still pretty good at my job. So I wanted to leave while I knew I was still doing a good job and people would remember me as being someone who really contributed musically to the group, both from the inside and the outside.
O Lord, make thy servant Elizabeth thy queen.
I think there are lots of things which are really consistent throughout the King Singers history when it comes to its sound, right? And I think a lot of that comes from trying to create this idea of trying to create one instrument with 6 voices, right? So you're really you're really optimizing to blend and correct balance so that it doesn't sound like 6 soloists on stage, but it's one musical product that you hear when you're in the audience, right? And that we're always trying to preserve. And of course, like as the voices in the group change, how that manifests will be ever so slightly different, but the principles behind it are exactly the same. I think we are pretty worldly, and our sphere of influence is very broad. And I think we want to reflect that in not only what we choose to sing, but how we sing. So our approach to pop music is now very much more informed by kind of how pop music is sung, as opposed to like, how would the King Singers sing pop music? You know, like, I know that's subtle, but I think that if you listen back to older recordings, you see an immense kind of diversity of repertoire, but you don't necessarily hear enormously different approaches to each different kind of song. You just hear a lot of charisma. And I think that hopefully now when you listen to the King Singers, you see us approaching pop music or folk music or jazz or Renaissance music as freely as the original group did, but with a slightly more targeted approach to try and present each idiom, each genre in a way that is truer to it, rather than just a reflection of how the King Singers sing, full stop. I think there are lots of amazing moments from being on stage that like I will remember forever. I mean, like some good examples. My birthday has often been when we've been on tour. Being born in January, we're like often on the road then, it's not like a Christmas holiday. And the number of times I've been in big concert halls and the whole audience has sung me happy birthday, and I've had like a cake brought out to me or whatever. Like that's mad. And they've been really different places. You know, it might be like Atlanta, Georgia. I had one in Moscow. Like Florence was where I celebrated my 30th birthday and they did it. Like that kind of thing is amazing. You know, to feel love from people from completely different walks of life. Celebrating you for who you are and what you give. Like that is very, very special. And of course, like just the level of international connection we've had. So like when you see a Chinese audience move to tears is so moving, when you also at the same time see like a very different French audience move to tears, and you're like, in spite of your cultural differences, like this music still has an incredible power to move you. I will cherish those memories forever. The only other thing worth saying is like, of course, there's no question that there are certain stages where you stand on them and you're like, that I will remember this forever. Like doing a prom at the Royal Albert Hall early this year and standing on stage in an a cappella ensemble. There's no orchestra as part of this concert. I mean, like, this room is full. Like, they've turned up for this kind of music for us on a Sunday morning. That's incredible. The same is true of standing on stage at Carnegie Hall or on the Sydney Opera House, and you think like, that's wild. That like you will, I know that's obvious, but I will hold on to that. As someone who is now leaving, I think my hopes for the group is that it stays as happy and buoyant as it is right now. Like, I think that this is a really, really, really positive partnership, and I'd love to see that stay. I see no reason why that would change. My Success Appears is awesome and so fun and so kind, and so that paints a really, really like hopeful story for the future. In terms of, you know, some of the stuff that I've helped with, and which I'm sure the group will continue on with, I think really brave programming. And I think that like focusing on programming that really is about how we can have the biggest impact on the audience, I think that's something which I really hope the group takes forward. I know that it's easy, and sometimes I felt this in the past with the King Singers, not at all with the current King Singers. Sometimes I felt that it's been more about what the group just wants to do. And I think that we have to think about what our purpose is. And I think our purpose is to connect people to music, to each other, to themselves through what we do. I think it's pretty obvious from what I've said already that the thing that's the most important thing about like the whole industry of music is that it serves connection. This idea that like music is an amazing, and performing is an amazing tool for people unlocking kind of a connection with themselves and with the people around them and with the past and with music itself as well. And for me, I have loved doing that in the context of being in the King Singers, and I hope that I can now do some of that in my own capacity. I think that I've always loved programming, and I've loved being sort of the leader on programming in the King Singers for about the last decade. And I also love, I don't know, presenting. I love connecting with people as an individual from the stage or on the radio or in any whatever capacity, in a podcast. And I'd love to try and do more of that because I think I can not only be reasonably articulate about why music matters to this point of serving connection, but also because I feel that I'm able to elicit that in other people. And so, yeah, I think presenting and programming are things which I'd really like to pursue. I obviously want to keep singing, but I've also done singing to such a high level now for the last 14 years. Like, I'm not at this stage interested at all in pursuing a solo singing career because I don't think I will be able to match any of the kind of the highs for a very long time that I've been able to kind of see as a member of the King Singers. So I think it's fun to have a little moment of pivoting and saying like, of course I'm going to do some singing, but I don't need that to be my main kind of breadwinning avenue for now. And just look at the other things kind of within the context of what I've done for the group and the skills that I've developed that maybe I can explore a bit more by myself.